Hello, and welcome to the Personified Leadership Podcast, the podcast where we explore the transformative journeys of leaders who have embraced the principles of personified leadership to drive success within their own organizations. Hello, Ernest. How are you?
Doing great, Michelle. Thank you
Uh,
for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Ernest, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you've been with Globe for almost 17 years now, and share with me a little bit about like who you are, who Globe is, and so our listeners can have a little bit of understanding of what you do.
Well, Globe is the leading mobile operator in the Philippines today. We got around 68 million subscribers and a dominant share of the market. We're also a full-fledged integrated telecom company, also delivering broadband services to the homes as well as business-to-business services to various institutions in the Philippines as well. We also operate what is the largest e-wallet in the Philippines called GCash. That particular business has approximately 94 million users. 8 out of 10 Filipinos use that service. And once again, it is the dominant digital payment method in the Philippines. It is the one that's powering financial inclusion in our country.
That's amazing. So tell me, in the 17 years, I know that Globe has been through quite an amazing transformation under your tutelage. So our program, the Personified Leadership Program, it's been going on for about 2.5 years now. And how did our soul leadership, and we rebranded it as soul leadership for you all because it kind of fit your culture a little bit better. But how did the soul leadership program really kind of support the transformation that you've led there at Globe?
Well, our culture, our strategy is people-led,
Yeah.
where we do a lot of technology, we use a lot of technology, but at the end of the day, in my view, people run that technology.
Mhm.
And a lot of our strategy is also based on the people's passion, getting them passionate about their job, getting them to love the company, love the customer, love and enjoy the work that they do, right? And also, we frame it around empowerment of various leaders empowering their people to get their job done, to succeed.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when we looked at your particular program, it just sort of helped us solve some of the missing components that we had in our team, which is what we've got great technical people, we've got people who are great at management, and understand, but some of them are missing, what I consider to be the it thing. I don't know what you term
Yeah.
it, but the soul, right,
Yeah.
of a leader. That's why we probably called it soul leadership
Yeah,
according to
absolutely.
and that missing link is how to be a true leader.
Mm.
And I found it, we've got great managers, but a lot of them, when I interview them for positions moving up, they're missing that element that I'm looking for, right?
Mm.
Maybe the selflessness, maybe the empowering attitude, maybe the feeling that their people should succeed, their people's success is their success kind of thing. There's a lot of leaders who are smart, but they want to be the smartest guy in the room, right?
Sure.
And that's not who I'm looking for in a leader.
Yeah.
The leader I'm looking for is very similar to the style I have, is, someone who can point the direction, inspire people to move to that direction, be the catalyst for success by removing obstacles,
Yeah.
giving them the right tools and the right, you would say, resources for that individual to succeed, and be happy for that person's success. And there's no sense of, oh my God, he's going to be better than me
Sure.
and he's going to move up faster than me. All that we need to remove, because if you have that, you'll never get people who are better than you. And I believe people in the organization and people who work for me should be better than me.
Mhm.
It also makes my life a lot easier.
It does. I mean, I remember the very first batch that we went through the program, you came and Otto came and a few of you came in to, just kick it off and give a couple of, inspiring words. And, and you really did say, we're looking for that next wave of leaders at Globe. We're looking for soulful leaders, those that truly can inspire other people, that can lead with a purpose and that have, that true desire to really be of service to others and not necessarily just to lead others, but to be of service to them. And so now that we've had that you've had a critical mass of leaders, like 2,600 or I think leaders or so that have been through soul leadership, Do you feel like you've seen any differences in culture or engagement or anything like that from your leaders?
Well, let's put it this way. I think the timing of the program, for one thing, was absolutely spot on, simply because there's a lot of transition going on in our organization. We are a management team that's been together for most of my close to 17 years with the company. And with that, success in keeping people together comes the issue of age.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When we started this journey, when we were to get to number one in the industry, we were all in our mid 40s.
Sure.
17 years later, you're now in your mid 60s,
Yeah.
right? For
Mhm.
most of us, and even Ato, who you mentioned, is closing in on 70.
Yeah.
And so we've had a bit of transition. We have 3 or 4 senior leaders move on. By the way, Michelle, I'm moving on in April of 2025 as well, as I turn 65 and
Okay.
closing in on my 17 years with the company. And so I think what we see today is the leaders are probably, I would say, better equipped to take on
Mm,
new roles, bigger roles. We have a couple of your participants now move up. Darius, for instance, and now is taking on the chief commercial role. Eric, the young man from the consumer business, is taking on most of the mobile business as well.
great.
So these are the young guys who've been through your program, and I hope we've instilled them with some of the skills, and maybe not, maybe they have the skills, but make them aware of the
Sure.
things that they should be and how they should be acting as leaders.
Our course is definitely a crash course in self-awareness because you do walk out with just a little bit better understanding, like where are my strengths and where are my development areas.
To me, lack of self-awareness is one of the biggest failures of the leaders,
Mhm.
of people trying to be a leader.
Yeah.
And instilling that in people, I think is a very critical skill to have, no, when with you in your armament, right? And
Hmm.
how am I affecting others, right? Am I speaking the way? Am I truly inspiring, or am I just bragging about how much I know?
Sure.
It's a very difficult skill. And sometimes the other thing is you got to overcome the ego, right?
Yeah.
overcome the overcome the temptation to keep showing you're the boss,
Right.
right? And
Hmm.
the more you show it, I think the more the people don't respect it. I to me, my style is just simply, what do you need to succeed in your job? Are you in agreement with our goal that we set for ourselves? Do you understand why that goal needs to be what it is? And let's go to it, right?
Yeah.
So
So now
keeping
you went through the program. The one thing I loved is that I love it when the C-suite leaders also role model going through the same program because, it just shares and it role models to the other leaders in the organization that, we also have room for growth and room for development. And it just shows that it's not just reserved for you, it's reserved for all of us. So when you went through the program, what were some of the things that really resonated with you or something that you took away from the program?
Well, I think the most of what I took from the program was how the program communicated what I want to tell the people.
Mm, okay.
Because the values that you were instilling are the things that I try to model.
Mm.
But I'm not a very good teacher, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I kind of lead by example. And then when people say, how are you doing it? I have a very difficult time expressing how. I said, to me, it's all common sense. I just do it.
Yeah.
And, if you observe and if you follow, I think then that's it. That's the way, right? So
Yeah.
I like that you have distilled it down to
Mm.
certain concepts, right? And I think, as I mentioned to you before we went on air, those little toys with or
Yeah, the body
things,
parts. Yeah.
body parts that you're using to kind of have people remember. They use it as metaphors for the different concepts. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, I mean, so the heart of the leader. I mean, what you've done there in the program, I like, is you've taken what we do and put words behind it,
Yeah.
so we can explain it to people, so they can internalize it, and then you demonstrate what that is, and hopefully that stays in people, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say that I think role modeling is a way of teaching because,
Oh, okay.
so you are teaching, even though maybe you're like, I can't describe it quite right, but that is definitely a way of teaching is by role modeling. And so there's an exercise we do at the very beginning of the program where we have leaders, just to introduce the 8 competencies that we're teaching. We do it through that poster activity where we give them a poster piece and a card, and we asked them to share an example of a leader who demonstrated this competency really well, whether it was the heart of a leader or the spine of a leader. And I will tell you, I facilitated multiple batches to a lot of your senior leaders there at Globe. And I will tell you that there were multiple personal stories from different leaders, unprompted from me, that were about you. That
Oh,
they were the ones that said, when I think of anybody, and at first I was like, okay, are they just saying this because he's the CEO, right? And whatnot. But after the fifth one, after the sixth one, after the seventh one, I mean, and unprompted, they're like, this is what I see Ernest doing. And I want to be, he role models this competency really well. So I will challenge you a little bit and say, you absolutely are teaching your people by being a fantastic role model for them. So congratulations on that.
well, thank you. I'm glad it's whatever I do works in terms of getting people to model the behavior. Right? I
Yeah.
guess one thing you said, I think there's one of the behaviors you mentioned is walk the talk, right?
Yes, it is. In the feet of a leader, accountability.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things I showed them very early on, right? When you want
Yeah.
to know the customer, you gotta go out in the field. I think very first week of when 17 years ago when I joined the company, that was what the previous leaders were just staying in their office, right? And
Mm,
I went out with the field people saying, show me where the stores that we distribute our SIMs, our sell our airtime.
yeah.
I speak to the people actually selling. Also, what's wrong with our product? Why are you selling the other competitor's product more than ours? Because we were number two back then,
Okay.
far number. And so, I'm glad that that's resonating with people, whatever I do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and so so the very first little speech that you gave, for that first batch, I know they recorded that and then they share that with the rest of the batches, all the other people that go through it. And one quote that you had in the video, I have it right here on my screen. I'm going to read from it. Soulful people lead with great passion. And if it wasn't for passion for the Filipino people, then we would not have gotten to number one in the industry. We have a passion to serve and a passion to help. And I just think that is such a great message that now that I've been there multiple times and worked with so many of your leaders, and now that you've got your internal trainers that are also delivering the program, that is one thing that I can definitely feel that in your culture. And that really is one of the biggest driving factors behind what you do there at Globe is how can we solve problems and have compassion and passion for the Filipino people? So I
Yeah,
just
because
I
we're
think
a
that's really
country
great.
where the people need so many things, right? So
Mhm,
many services, right? And when we started our journey, the journey was simply about providing them with great communication services, right?
mhm,
Globe started in the 90s, and I don't know, but when we were growing up in the 80s, it took 5 years to get a phone line to your house,
mhm.
right? It was like a family heirloom that you bequeath to your heirs, right?
Yeah.
It's so difficult to get that. But when cellular came into the Philippines and you could get a SIM from any neighborhood store, it just revolutionized communication.
Sure.
Then we brought on, mobile data connectivity to the people and access to the internet, and that opened up the world of information. That was the
Yeah.
second form of transformation that we enabled. And then lately, we chose to tackle the issue of financial inclusion. In the Philippines, before we started, only 28% of the population had access to financial services.
Mm,
We've been over the last 8 years since we restarted that business, been able to push that to close to 70%.
wow.
So access to financial services like sending money digitally, paying digitally,
Yeah.
sending a bank transfer, borrowing money from us without even applying,
Mm,
right? It's just on the website, I mean on the app,
mhm.
and using your transactions to create a credit score using AI, right? AI collections. We do all that because it has to scale.
Yeah.
And insurance, right? In the Philippines, penetration is at maybe 2-3%. And today we're selling millions of policies of various micro insurance policies and getting people educated on the concept of insurance and protection. Trading stocks,
Okay.
crypto, that's all on the platform now. Shopping, all on the platform. Buy now, pay later on the platform. So many things that we've enabled. And I think this is part of what the Globe purpose is. We're trying to see how else we can play a role in helping people improve their everyday lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done such a fabulous job of it. I want to share one, and you've naturally done it even in the beginning part of this podcast, but one time, the first time I met, shared a story of how, part of what you think being a good leader is just removing those barriers, right? To let people do their job. And in the Eyes of a Leader module, we teach something called the drain model. When you take your mental, your physical, and your spiritual energy and you all funnel it straight towards a goal, that's what makes teams work the best. But you also have to identify what are the drains, what are the things that could drain your energy or pull your energy away from being able to achieve those goals. And you shared that story. One of the first things you ever said was like, what is preventing you from doing your job? And what can I do to remove those barriers? And for me, I'm like, oh my God, that's a visionary leader right there. You're a true example, and you speak it, you live it all the time. So what do you think it is about that's such an important part of being a good leader? What is it about removing those barriers and removing those things that prevent people from hitting their KPIs or impeding with them and being able to do their jobs? What do you think is so important about that?
Well, if you think about the role that you as a leader plays, right, in the organization, a leader will not do what your subordinate can do,
Hmm.
right? So what I was thinking was, what is something I can do to add value to their job? That's one. And second, what are the things that I can do that they can't do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they can't change a budget, I can. All right. So if they justify that, hey, you know what, the initial budget that was set was too low for this thing, so it's a waste of money. If you're just going to do it with this little budget, it's not going to achieve the purpose anyway. I can take that and streamline the process of a budget addition or alteration, right? If they need something on the regulatory front, right, they can't call the regulators, the commissioners, or whoever, but I can,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can help them shape some of the regulation that's needed to get some products through, or so and so on and so forth. So adding value is not helping them do what they already know how to do. To me,
Right.
it's doing something that they could not have done, and
Ah,
then makes their job easier and makes everyone succeed. So that's to me a simple, again, commonsensical thing that the leader should be thinking of, right?
yeah.
What do these guys need that only I can provide?
Okay.
Right? And then that's what the value add for you in a project or in a meeting or in a company, right? That you can do.
That's great. All right, Ernest. Well, what are next steps? I know you mentioned that you have announced your retirement, but what do you think is next steps for Soul Leadership in Globe? And then just why do you think others should consider personified leadership or soul leadership?
Well, I think the next step, like I said, I'm going to be leaving the company after 16 and a half years. I hope that the legacy will continue, the culture we built, which correlates with the soul leadership or the personified programs that we put in place. I think we should continue reinforcing the behaviors that we've started to introduce and talk about in the core leadership program. And I think if a company, if a leader truly believes that this program correlates very well with the values that you want to instill in people, they should go through this as well. And the other good thing about the program is it's not sitting in a chair and just simply listening all day,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of interaction. And as a leader that also believes in interaction among peers is so necessary. We're a very social company at Globe. I think you've seen that as well.
Hmm.
And that creates the bonding because there's also one more thing that I try to push, and we are simply friends in a mission at Globe.
Hmm.
Right? A mission either to be number one, a mission to help the Filipino people, a mission to succeed, whatever, but we are friends, and friends work much better together if you're friends as well as business colleagues or associates, right?
Yeah.
So we try to bring in that other social component to get people to become friends more easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And team building is kind of a byproduct of our program because of the experiential activities and the up and interaction that we have people doing, and even just the conversations that we draw upon the wealth of knowledge that they bring to the room already about being a good leader. And so it really does help foster and kind of deepen those connections with people as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I
Well,
hope
Ernest,
you
thank you
guys
so
continue,
much.
and more success to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to have a conversation with me. It's been a true honor and a true gift to have worked with Globe under your tutelage, and a big thanks to Anna as well, Anna Manlapet, who was the one that found our program, and it has been just a true joy to work with you.
Our pleasure as well.